Hello, guys. Welcome to this video lesson on Pablo Neruda's The Word. This is, in fact, the last and final video lesson on Pablo Neruda's The Word. Pablo Neruda, the internationally acclaimed Latin American poet, the fighting revolutionary, is named, along with Charlie Chaplin, Mahatma Gandhi, and John F. Kennedy, as one of the most outstanding characters of the 20th century. A hater of the ravages of war, Neruda strongly believed in the power of love and mutual understanding among human beings. Memoirs, as we have acquainted with in the last video lesson, is a passionate, volatile, and comprehensively autobiographical document presented in an amiable and entertaining manner. In fact, Memoirs is Neruda's magnum opus. As the name suggests, memoirs are about his entire life, literary influences on him. So it talks about Neruda as a person and Neruda as a poet. A major portion of his memoirs details his political birth and subsequent political career, how Neruda got involved with the vortex of politics and how he began his political career, which simultaneously impacted his poetry. So you can't separate or you can't filter Neruda's poetry from Neruda's politics. There is an interconnection, an interlink between his poetry and politics. In fact, Neruda began to use poetry as a medium to express his political beliefs, as well as detail the momentous political occurrences happening all around him. Now, in this memoirs, Neruda talks about various themes. So, let's have a look at the themes and the concepts that he talks about mostly in his works: politics, patriotism, nationalism, communism, socialism, local, regional, world politics. And then he talks about the literary circles, the literary environment and scenario of his contemporary periods, which has greatly impacted and influenced Neruda. He talks about all the writers, poets, editors, all the leading literary figures of his time that he met throughout his life. And these are the major themes of the book, and by extension, this is in fact his life. Here, the excerpt from the memoirs of Pablo Neruda, The Word. The Word, which is prescribed for us to learn. It provides or it proves the multitudes of potential in words and his intimate affiliation with words that portray his personal and political life. Words can manifest vivid expression whether in poetry or prose. Words sing and dissent, and the poet even bows to them. He expresses his intense love towards words, and he always clings to words. He tries to tame them, he tries to mold them, groom them while writing. So here, Neruda refers to the creative frenzy of writing poems or writing pieces, so making his creative works. He talks about the creativity of an artist and his, what do you say, intricate, complicated, some sort of a crazy relationship with words. He always clings on to words and he runs after words, and all his acts of life are closely associated with words. Sometimes words come like unexpected rain, very beautiful, and he waits for them greedily to drop down. So it's just like flying words coming down. He's trying to catch them, capture them. He loves vowels, yes, of course, and he has compared vowels to a series of vivid objects in nature like colored stones, silver fish, form, thread, metal, dew, and whatnot. While writing poems, he often runs after beautiful words, so he is bewitched head to toe with words. Certain words are so beautiful and enchanting that he wants them. He's greedy for words. He wants to capture them, grab them, and fit to them. He wants to stuff his pockets and his sack and his poems with words, beautiful words. He compares his encounter with words to the everyday activities in a human life. He deals with words like dealing something edible, something eatable that he can eat. For he says he cleans them, peels them, and make them his meal. He finds words from everything that exists in this world. The words gather its meaning through long journeys from country to country, and that they carry the inheritance of ancient culture and history. So you come across particular areas where Neruda talks about words just like he compares them to foodstuffs. He is taking them, cleaning them, washing them, peeling them, taking their skin off and cooking them, garnishing them, and having a delicious meal. And of course, he talks about words which are carried from individual to individual, taken, carried off, and transported through, places, lands, nations, countries. So, regardless of geographical constraints, words are carried, or you can say language is crossing borders, language is crossing countries, and this, in fact, simultaneously carries or transmits culture, literature, art, and history. So Neruda is so proud of language that inherited, according to him, from the brave Spanish conquerors of Mexico and Peru. So in this small extract, he brings the memory of his great ancestors who struggled to build uh, civilized culture. Amid these struggles, they paid special attention to literature and arts. Luminous words were left here. So Neruda, while speaking about his ardent love and passion for words, he says how words and language is being carried from one particular nation to another, and this, in fact, makes him remember how the Spanish conquerors, the Spanish conquistadors, they came to Mexico, Peru, and Chile, making these countries or these lands Spanish colony. And this actually is reminiscent of how India was, of course, a British colony, and how we have got the privilege of learning, talking, interacting in English, of course. And likewise, he says that his ancestors, they struggled to build up a civilized culture. So there was so much of persecution. Of course, you can imagine how when colonizers arrive in a particular land where and make it a colony of their own, he's mentioning to the imperialistic forces, and he says that in fact it's a blessing in disguise because we have the privilege, we get a chance, it's an opportunity to receive a language, to learn a new language, thereby understanding and imbibing a new culture and more advancement and knowledge. So they carried off the gold and left us gold, glittering words for the future generations. So here he believes that the words are the gift from the great ancestors. This statement brings out the history of Chile, and the Chile was a Spanish colony for 3 centuries, as a result of which the official language became Spanish. The Spanish conquerors plundered, razed, looted, and robbed all the precious natural resources of the country, knowingly or unknowingly, leaving one particular thing, one treasure to the Chilean people, that is the language. So, referring to the colonial exploitation of Chile by the Spanish, Neruda highlights the exchange of culture, language, tradition, and history. So, in fact, Neruda, as a man who is passionate for language and words, he's trying to attribute some sort of a positive image to the imperialism or the imperialistic forces, or what do you say, the act or the process of colonialism. He says that uh, when these colonizers they left, they robbed, they exploited our country, and they left. But they left the real treasure, and that is language. So he is focusing, he is revalidating the exchange of culture, language, tradition, and history between the colonizer and the colonized, which happens invisibly. You won't see that, it's unnoticeable. And this is more valuable than any other material wealth. Though that means they carried out the gold, they left us the real gold. And which is that gold? Language, words. That in fact is the real possession, or that in fact is the real treasure. Oh, here, the whole passage is intensely poetic. It is replete, it is filled with visual images and surrealistic expressions. Throughout the word, Neruda uses bounties, multitudes, he lavishes domestic imagery along with other poetic devices like similes, alliteration, and personification that support in describing Neruda's thoughts on words. So he makes a lot of comparisons between language, life, and blood. Neruda displays his outspoken passion for the gift of language, and he says that the word is something we are born with and it is in us. Words are compared to several objects from different walks of life. Comparing words, comparing words to stalactites, slivers of polished wood, coals, and pickings. So there are interesting and intriguing images that he has taken. For example, he talks about words that they are stalactites, the ice, the tapering pointed ice in case, and they are beautiful pieces of polished wood. And then he takes imageries from shipwreck, from the sea, ocean, and he says that words they are just like gifts from beneath the depths of ocean. And he even calls a word a spoiled little thing, a naughty, disobedient little thing, who is even compared to olives. Yes. So this is a remarkable instance of personification. And the concluding four lines of the passage is an excellent example of parallelism. The word is defined by culture, and culture can sometimes die or sometimes migrate. You carry so many things which cannot be seen physically when languages move across, when cultures are taken across. Then new settlements are made, and words, language play a pivotal role in it. Another important reference that Neruda makes in his word is that of an interesting movement that is surrealism. Surrealism is, in fact, a 20th century style and cultural movement in art and literature. It is a cultural movement which developed in Europe in the aftermath of World War One, First World War. And this movement is best known for its visual artworks and writings, and the juxtaposition of uncommon, peculiar, strange imagery. Artists, they painted unnerving, uncanny, unconventional, and illogical scenes, creating strange creatures from everyday objects. Now, in surrealism, artists, painters, and writers they aim to balance or bring the contradictory conditions of dream and reality. So you can see elements, images, colors, shapes, features, characteristic features which move just like a pendulum between dream and reality. You cannot say it is completely imagination. You cannot say it is completely realistic. There is a contradictory, conflicting, contrary juxtaposition. Juxtaposition means placing side by side two opposite or contrary features or concepts or images. And this ultimately culminates into an absolute reality, a super reality. So here you can see a definition of surrealism, and I'm presenting a couple of slides where you can see the pioneers of the surrealistic movement in Europe. Yes. So works of surrealism, they feature the element of surprise. There is a strangeness, there is a tickling feel, there is a surprise there. And the surrealists, they regard their expression of philosophical movement first. Okay, it is in fact, and the assertion of surrealism is in fact a revolutionary movement. You cannot find a unified style there. I'm showing you a couple of paintings related to surrealism. You can have a look at it. So there is no unified style here, and in painting, one can distinguish a range of possibilities falling between two extremes. And what are those two extremes? Dream and reality. At one pole, at one extreme, you can see the viewer, the audience, or the reader is confronted by a world that is completely defined and minutely depicted, but that makes no rational sense. So there's some sort of an ambiguity, some sort of an ambiguous and paradoxical or shocking frameworks. Just look at these paintings. You can feel a strange, ambiguous, uh, no unified style, some sort of a surprise or shock. And at the other pole, so there is something which is defined at the same time there is no rational sense. It's illogical. There is a quasi or semi dreamy situation. Realistic elements are there, everything related to reality is there. At the same time, it is not completely realistic. There are so many quasi dreamy situations, bizarre, shocking incidents will be there. And there are also organic, emblematic, or absolute surrealism with so much of abstract images and indefinite emotions and sensations are created in you. So there goes surrealism, and actually, the word by Neruda abounds. It's full of, you can see it's boiling and bubbling in surrealistic expressions. Just remember that. And words which seem to have no sense and logic at all, bowing to the words, running them down, biting them, and clinging to them. How can you expect someone to eat words, garnish words, cook words, clinging words, and what do you say, running and chasing them and catching them when they are flying? So this is absurd. So there's some sort of a senselessness in that. The speaker catches the words in mid flight, stirs them, shakes them, drinks them, and garnishes them, and he believes them to have a crystalline texture, oily, like fruit, having shadows, transparency, and even weighty feathers. Now, all these dreamlike sequences, juxtaposition of bizarre images, and has hallucinative writing, they are nothing but surrealistic elements. Yes. Written in prose style in the form of a dramatic monologue. Why dramatic monologue? You have a speaker there. He is raving and ranting and recklessly talking whatever he feels like. Sometimes sense, sometimes nonsense. Neruda throws his readers into a vast realm of words and language without inquiring the attitude of his readers. That's why it's a dramatic monologue. It's a one-sided talk. He doesn't care what you feel. He doesn't bother what kind of an emotion is built in you. And apparently, the speaker expresses his own whims and fancies on words by employing a lot of poetic figures of speech, thereby ascribing the charm of a poem to this extract. So, I would like you to focus on this particular area where you are reminded that, of course, the word is definitely a piece of prose. It's a prose writing, but it appears to you like a charming, beautiful poetic piece. Why? So you have bounties of reasons. Surrealistic elements, lot of poetic images, a lot of visual pictures are drawn in front of you. He has drawn his images from various sources in all walks of life, and then he has employed a lot of techniques, poetic figures of speech. He has lavished them, and all together ultimately give this word an image, a charming, elegant appearance or beauty of a poem. Of course, the word is a great pain to poetry. Neruda relishes words, savours them, and fondles them in an attempt to control their poetic power and emotions in diverse patterns, evoking rapture, ecstasy. What is he trying to do in this writing, in his creative piece of writing? He is trying to control, he is trying to tap, he is trying to extract some sort of a poetic power and emotions. And in this, he is doing in diverse patterns, employing images, employing visual art, employing surrealism, employing poetic figures of speech. He is doing this in diverse patterns, and thereby he is creating or evoking rapture. What is that? Ecstasy, bliss, happiness, joy. You can see a man drunk, intoxicated, reveling in his intoxication as he is clinging to them, as he is running after them, as he is trapping them, cleaning them, and feeling them. Ultimately, reaffirming, re emphasizing, and he is confirming, he is establishing that barbarians, invaders, conquerors, they have carried off gold. They have carried off the gold. They took all the treasures, they took all the riches. But ultimately, unknowingly, unconsciously, they have left us the real gold. What is that? The words. And in fact, you can say language. Possession of language is similar or resembles possession of the vastness of treasures, the vastness of riches, according to Neruda. So, this video lesson is in fact a backup. It is a catalyst for your attempting questions, or where you encounter or confront essay-like questions from this particular chapter. So that's all for this particular lesson. I think you have enjoyed watching. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video lesson.